What's up, everybody? We got to get into this. We got Franzen coming on today. We're talking about some charts, some signals, some setups. Why is the price stalling here? Is this a setup before it breaks higher? Is this about to break further to the downside? What are we doing? How are we playing this? We're getting this retweeted out. We are live streaming on Twitter and on YouTube. So make sure you are hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, dinging the bell, wherever you are watching in. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you head over to my page at Kellam or at Academy BitLab. Retweet the live tweet that's going on right, or the live stream that's going on right now. We're going to be getting into some charts here in just a moment. Is this live streaming? I do believe it is. Let's see. It should be on both. I don't know why it's not showing up on Twitter. Let's see. But we're going to be getting going here in just a moment.
Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been prepared for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been prepared for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been prepared for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been prepared for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. SEC and its policies rely on whatever Gary thinks. Bitcoin's a flight to quality. I heard that for Larry Fink. Every hour losing purchasing power on foolish shelter. It's not our fault. Blame the coal. It's the political cowards. When it comes to gas, our purchasing power just got cut in half. I sit back and laugh, open my bag, fill it with stacks and sats. Bitcoin pumping, altcoins pumping. I've been prepared for this. Can't tell me nothing.
And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a flight to quality. We are hearing from clients around the world.
Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pumping. I've been prepared for this.
And I believe crypto will play that type of role as
Bitcoin, pump, altcoin, pump.
we are hearing from clients around the world.
Can't nobody tell me nothing.
Crypto, depending on how you think about it. And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a
Can't
flight
nobody
to
tell me
quality.
nothing. Bitcoin, pump.
We are hearing from clients around the world.
Prepared for this.
These markets are chopping around. They're chopping up. They're chopping down. We got to talk about what's going on. We also have to talk about the broader markets and what signals they are giving to what is happening, because we've got some incredible movements that are likely just about to take off. We want to make sure that we're prepared. We got Franzen coming on here in just a few minutes. This should be dual streaming on Twitter as well. It doesn't look like it is. I don't know why, but that's okay. I retweeted the link on this on Twitter as well. But we're going to be diving in here in just a couple seconds. So throw a one in chat if you're ready to go. Let's ride. What's up, everybody? I don't know what happened to, the intro thing. That's what I moved on accident before. How you doing, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Welcome to the BitLab Academy daily stream. My name is Kellam, and we are going to be breaking down what is going on in this market. We're going to be diving into some charts, some signals, and essentially just breaking down exactly what the hell is going on. Because when we're looking at the market as it stands right now, this is on the 3-minute chart. Let's actually take this out to the 1-minute chart. We got a little bit of a sort of consolidation happening. It's a rising channel in this smaller time frame. This is on the 1-hour chart, right at this level that we've been watching. If we take this out to the 6-hour, right in this zone. This essentially resistance zone, these two lines that come out, we're kind of just sitting right in the middle of this between these two zones. Are we going to break to the upside? Are we going to crash back down? In fact, I would argue it would be a little bit healthier if we did get a little bit of a move to the downside. However, we're going to talk about that. We're going to be going through a number of different charts that I've got set up for you here, but you know what? We're going to be talking about it, so let's just dive in. First things first, Bitcoin, 67,970, basically hovering around that $68,000 mark. Ethereum above 2,500, sitting in that $2,600 mark. You're seeing a little bit of a steady climb into the zone that we're at over this last week. Everybody thought, remember about 4 days ago, Everybody's wondering if October is over. Now everybody thinks we're going straight to $86,000. It's going to be neither. We got to do some work. We got to shake out some of this overhyped nature of what's going on in the market, because we can see, let's actually take this out to the 1 month chart. I just want you to notice there's so much liquidity that we have just sort of chopped out to the upside, chopped back out to the downside, cleared this liquidity back up, cleared it back down, now moving up. We do have quite a big node down here, just to under $62,000. So we need to pay attention to that. If we come over here to the 2-week chart, you can see quite a bit has been cleared out. And if we come down here to the 48-hour chart, we're getting a very interesting mix of liquidity. We're kind of trapped between liquidity in both directions, because there's still some perma bears out there, but there's still quite a bit. There's still quite, yeah, see, I don't know why this is not pushed out. Can I push this to Twitter while this is on? I don't know if I can do that. No, I can't. So I can't. So that's okay. Boom. We'll just keep it as it is. This is just the YouTube today, I guess, and that's okay. But diving in with what we're looking at here, we kind of flushed this out and opened up all this new liquidity below us. And look at this. We're sitting right in the middle of this range. If we come down to the 12-hour chart, we can see, look at this, just above us, 69, basically right at 69,000, and just below us at 66.9, which is basically, let's call it $67,000. And what does this mean? So when we dive in and we're looking at what's going on, first off, let's look at this. Over the past 7 months, sharp spikes in positive sentiment among crypto enthusiasts. This is that fear and greed, you know, when people are very hyped up, and also when people get very scared. Positive sentiment has been spiking. Enthusiasts during price surges have often been followed by corrections for Bitcoin, with sentiment heating up. Again, stay cautious. So things are getting very sort of frothy, and we can see that in the data of what's happening on these charts as well. And what is that data? Let's make sure we're hitting the like button, engaging with content when we are looking at it and utilizing it. Now, coming over here, we see retail investors are returning to the market. So this is good. We're seeing positive sentiment across socials, but we're also seeing demand. The current metric stands at 7%, and an increase of 3% will indicate strong demand. An increase of 3% will indicate strong demand from retail players. Well, what happens when retail tends to get involved? Retail tends to get involved when there's a little bit of hype around. And so you get these little mini hype cycles where people come in and they essentially just put their liquidity in the order books, and typically with a lot of leverage. And what happens, this is why we're always looking at this, pulling this up as often as possible, seeing where liquidity is likely going to be placed in these charts, and where it's essentially acting as a magnet for price to get pulled into those zones. So when we see this, we do see, look, retail demand came up. This is when this was the FTX collapse. Now, it's not always going to correlate like this with the downward price action. The retail, look at this, the demand came in on this drop. Now, in this case, demand spiked right here. We did get that sell the news event, but then ultimately the price ended up moving to the upside. We got another spike right here. This is just following when price movement to the upside. This will also, look, large price movement to the upside. This is when retail gets in. They're buying hope. Stop buying hope. If you're going to buy hope, in fact, I would say buy hope with conviction. Because I'm hopeful in Bitcoin. I'm hopeful in crypto generally. I'm hopeful in markets. But I also have a time distinction and a risk management strategy for how I am navigating these markets. So if you're buying this because this went up and it drops this much and you know you get scared and you get out, you just bought high, sold low, and then it ripped and left you behind. Similarly, look, this was a great place to buy. When retail investors, look, massive decline in retail investment, that was the point at which to get in. Again, this happened over and over again, and we are starting to get that roundingness on the price action, setting up for that next move. But as it stands right now, we're getting a little bit of that retail coming in. I still think that we need a little bit of a flush. I don't mean a flush down to 42,000. I don't mean this break. I mean a little bit of a cleansing in these small local areas. Even if this, gets a little bit boring, consolidates, or potentially comes back into the 65, potentially even down to this zone that we were talking about, 64. This would be a healthy price action for it to essentially push up, have a little bit of a pullback, push up, have a little pullback, maybe a little bit of sideways, a little check, boom, something in this regard. We don't want it just to go like this. As it stands right now, we are in the very middle of the month. And as we outlined what we've seen in the last cycles, it would stand to reason that if we do get a small, and again, I don't mean a massive correction to the downside, but a little bit of a cleansing of the open interest. Because when we look at what's going on and we see 5K Bitcoin, 5,000 Bitcoin open interest added on Binance futures today, volatility is coming. So we may get that pump to the upside before we get that drop. And that's okay. At some point, we have to be ready that there's going to be a corrective movement. That's a natural progression of how price actions move and trend: rise, retrace, continuation. So let's stay cognizant of what's happening in these markets. Let's keep our vision not just on it needs to go up because I bought, and also don't feel like I bought, oh my God, it dropped. Every time I buy, it drops. Well, if that's the case and you have conviction, then either add to that position or stop buying on leverage and getting liquidated. Practice healthy risk management. Be ready to take advantage of what's happening in these markets, because this market's going to either take advantage of you or you are going to take advantage of this market. There's no other way around that. You got to keep your mind about you right now and understand what is coming, because it's not just Bitcoin. We also look at other things like, for instance, look at this. AI race spurs largest Taiwanese fundraising boom since 2007. This is also one of those things. Yes, it's outside of the crypto market, but things outside the crypto market are going to have a massive impact on risk, especially technological risk in these markets, especially when you see things like Elon Musk and I think it was Tesla, it might have been SpaceX, but Elon Musk basically got 100,000 GPUs online. And what the CEO of NVIDIA said should have taken 4 years, he did it in like 19 days, something ridiculous like that. Now, these things might not seem like they're directly related to crypto, but you all know I've been talking about Tau. I've been talking about ASI, artificial superintelligence, like Fetch and Ocean Protocol and AGIX, all now known as ASI, Render, Aether, all these essentially proxies or tangent plays are very tied to what's happening in the AI narrative. In fact, there's also some people that speculate some of the Bitcoin miners out there could co-opt essentially parts of their mining facilities to also be utilized, because it's GPUs utilized in essentially artificial intelligence processing power. So there's a lot going on right now, and there's speculation because Drew brought up from Blockchain Basement, was talking with him this morning. Drew brought up the fact that back in the boom, technological boom in 2001, Cisco, before the crash, that dot-com bubble, Cisco made up about 5% of the stock market GDP and then crashed. Well, right now, NVIDIA, and I forget the total metric, NVIDIA makes up about, I think it's like 11 or 14% of that. So some people are calling for a bubble, and it very well may be the case, but that's why you need to make sure you hedge yourself and you also understand your time horizon. But we also see the strengthening and the implementation of major things outside that are supporting a further narrative of bullishness within this technological sector. We got a guest coming on here in just a few minutes that's going to share some incredible perspectives about what's going on in these markets that also are going to have impacts on what's happening within Bitcoin, within Ethereum, within the broader altcoin market. So stay tuned for that. And by the way, everybody right now, make sure you're hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, dinging the bell, and making sure that you are participating and getting the word out here. I don't know why, by the way. On my Twitter, I go up to like 28.9 and then it drops back to 28.3. Then it goes up to 28.6. Then it comes back to 28.4. I'm not sure, but make sure you're giving me a follow on the correct. Usually this is live streaming on Twitter as well. I don't know why this is not live streaming on Twitter, but I did share the post right here. If you would, this will be the post today, because you all know we do a giveaway every Friday, and we randomly draw a day, and then we randomly draw a person. Sometimes we do 2 or 3. So hit that retweet, hit that like button. That is how you enter. We randomly draw from those of you that are sharing the good word. Now, continuing on, we got a couple other charts to get through, and then we got our boy, a guest coming on here in just a moment. But looking at this, there's minimal chance there's a minimal chance that you're not in profit whenever you purchase Bitcoin. On the current price, 97% of the days are profitable. Only 3% are days resulting in a loss. If you're in this in a loss and you see that 97% of the days are profitable, there's nothing right now in the data that would suggest that you need to capitulate. Now, this is not financial advice. This is strategy advice. This is breaking down what's going on in these markets and understanding how data represents itself and gives you a roadmap for how to navigate what's going on and what your action plan should be in these markets. And that is, if you understand that 97% of the days are profitable, you're in the 3%, you're a little on profit, maybe you're underwater because you bought at $73,800, then why? How could you not have conviction to have the balls to buy at $73,800 and now you're going to sell right before we have absolute face meltingness? I mean, we look at this chart right here. These are the last two cycles. This right here is where we're at, where we're currently at on price action, exactly where we should be. And you're questioning potentially you should be bearish. You got no eyes. You have no brain if that's something that you are thinking. All data suggests we are in for a hell of a year and a half. So let's stay positive. And on top of that, we're seeing, look at this, 4,307 Bitcoin were purchased yesterday from not BlackRock, not Larry Fink, as Scott Melker trying to help get the word out. And I'm going to try to help get the word out with them. It's not Larry Fink buying Bitcoin. It's not BlackRock buying Bitcoin. It is participants out in the market that are buying shares of IBIT, and IBIT has to then go buy the representative Bitcoin for it. So this is driven by, yes, big money and also retail going out there in the appetite that are buying Bitcoin exposure through the ETF. But we also said Grayscale, 119, Fidelity up 522. I mean, yesterday alone was 5,686 Bitcoin were purchased. The day before that, 8,337. I mean, we can see this. This is, I mean, kind of been chopping around. This is the flows of the appetite for ETFs. We just kind of broke a little mid time frame sort of range high here, getting a little bit of a reduction, not a pullback, a little reduction of the inflows, still way up. It's going to be interesting to watch how this progresses over the next year and beyond, because we are in a different paradigm now. We are in epoch 2 of Bitcoin. We are in that new framework where now institutions, corporations, individuals, big money players can now buy Bitcoin through ETFs, which in some cases, I think everybody should self-custody. But in some cases, you know, if people are buying through only their registered investment advisors, if corporations are only trying to get something on a regulatory level that has that stamp of approval from the government, this is a great access to capital to come in to this market. So let's keep an eye on that as we go. Moving on here, we can also, this is that open interest. This does give a little bit of a hesitation about where we're at on price action at the moment. Let's get back down to the 24-minute and notice that, okay, I mean, yes, we're at a resistance level. If we get the pullback, great, opportunity zone. If it drops further, better opportunity zone. That's how I'm looking at it. How are you looking at it right now? I'm curious where you think we will be at the end of October. Everybody that's watching right now, drop a comment in the live chat. If you're watching later, drop a comment down below. Where do you think, what's the price point that you think that the Bitcoin is going to be at? And what price point do you think Ethereum is going to be at on November 1st? Curious to see what you guys have to say. And shout out to everybody in the house today. We got so many people here in the live chat. If you are a BitLab member, drop some emojis in there. If you've been noticing, we have been doing a lot more member streams. So make sure you are paying attention to all the information there. And remember, if you want to get in on a lot of the trade signals and everything that we've been providing, a free traders group, that link is right here. Join our free traders group. It's that link right there. You can find that. You can sign up and get bonuses. No VPN, no KYC required. Come in there. We've been killing trades in there. And of course, remember to protect yourself in these markets. I got an incredible deal with NordVPN. Head over to nordvpn.com. Again, that's nordvpn.com. Gives you 4 months free. get that deal right there. Make sure you are protecting yourself. I'm seeing a lot of different scams, a lot of different issues. Even people in Turkey can't even get on Discord anymore. Well, if you got VPN, you can. Just make sure you are protecting yourself. Take advantage of this, and you're also helping support the channel. That's nordvpn.com/BitLab. Now, continuing on with what we want to talk about here, remember, only 3% of the days resulting in a loss. So we need to make sure that we are seeing the forest for the trees, because opportunity is blowing up. And what are we seeing right now the last 7 months? This is that move, $73,800 to where we're at today. Massive total balance on balance change of large holders, 1 to 10K. Last week, institutional wallets that exclude miners and exchanges accumulated more than 67,000 coins in the 30-day window, surpassing more than 3.9 million Bitcoin. That's not dollars. 3.9 million Bitcoin accumulating in these large wallets, excluding miners and exchanges. That is a huge number of, a huge amount of capital, huge amount of this asset in the best asset class in the history of the world before we get that next leg up. Now, is there going to be some shaking about? Absolutely. You better believe it, because when people get a little too over leveraged and we can see free liquidity in the charts, big market players come and scoop that liquidity up. So make sure you mind your P's and Q's and you're not giving your money away right now. Now, continuing on, I think there's 1 or 2 more charts. And this is that, look at this. Look at previous cycle. Slight uptick. New wallets over 1,000 Bitcoin. Look at that slight uptick. This is the most bullish thing that you could even see right now. Now, does it put it in a position for potential manipulation? Yeah, maybe. But I would not bet on that when you're talking about an asset that has such a storied future, because of how this is contrary to every fiat currency that's ever existed. It is outside the system. We're seeing big money players just now getting the awareness about this and diving in like this. This is setting a base that is stronger than we've ever seen. I showed you the metric yesterday where the new whale cost basis, I think, was $62.9 thousand. This is, are you not bullish, guys? I mean, come on, let's get into it. This is excluding custodial wallets. It's not ETFs. This is excluding exchanges. It's not Coinbase and Kraken and, those different wallets they're using for liquidity pools. It's not miners. This is new wallets of players that are out there, big money, small money, institutions, retail, having over 1,000 Bitcoin. And this is only, look at this. This has been increasing, not here where we're at $73,800. This is as this has been chopping about. This is whales scooping up the idiocy of people being bearish at this level, consolidating at previous all-time highs. And when we look back at this metric right here, where are we at? We're at that, we just passed that 170-day window that I've been talking about since April 19th, the day of the halving this year. This is a halving. I talked about the sideways action that you saw in the previous 2 cycles and where we could likely start to see that price action push to the upside, or at least start looking for it. And we have hit this so far to a T. And we are right here coming into that big date that's just around the corner, right there in that first week of November. And we have seen in all cycles that date and post that date is when you see some absolute magic in these markets. And let's not forget, before we jump over to our guest here in just a moment, we got a traveling reporter that we're going to be bringing you the goods here in just a moment. But looking at this Bitcoin to S&P 500, we are seeing in the most bearish of markets we've ever seen, in the recession that was absolutely going to happen and the market was going to tank. What have we seen? Strength in market correction, strength in market, new all-time highs being set all the way since back here in, July 2022 bottom. And this is the blue line is S&P 500, just setting new highs all the way now for almost 2 years. And people are still doubting this. And you ask yourself right now, why are you talking about the S&P 500, Kelly? We want you to focus on Bitcoin. You cannot look at any asset, no matter how much you like it, in a vacuum. And when you see Bitcoin consolidating at previous all-time highs, having the halving, and a little bit of, okay, what's the narrative now? Is it bullish? Is it bearish? Why isn't this moving up while the S&P 500 and other commodities and equities and indexes are pushing so high up? I would argue that this is the manipulation everybody wants. This is a suppression. This is a lack of follow through so far that everybody's wondering, why isn't this pushing up? I'm like, you got your vision wrong. This is setting a base that is going to absolutely melt faces. And with that, let me throw it over to our absolutely wonderful guest who I love in this space, Mr. Where's it at? Mr. Kellam Franzen, who is a ghost. So let me pull him up. There he is. How you doing, my friend?
What's up, bro? Good to see you, man.
Dude, you know what I love about this? Your hair is a metric for how long I've known you.
Just keeps growing. I'm coming up on the 2-year anniversary of my last cut, and look, the longer the hair grows, the higher price keeps going. So, I'm a little superstitious, so I'm not cutting it yet.
Dude, let's go. Well, I thank you for being on with us. I know we get on periodically. You've been I gotta say, you've been absolutely crushing the just no holds barred. This is my thoughts. This is why this is wrong. This is why this is right. These are the signals I'm watching. So where are you tuned in from today? What part of the world?
Calling in from Bucharest, Romania.
Bucharest, Romania. All right. So being that you can get an outside looking in on the markets here, you got an unbiased view, both geopolitically, where your locale, but then also, what are you seeing in these markets right now? Is a recession coming? We're going to get another rate cut. It means the market's going to crash. So what's your thoughts on what the hell's going on right now?
Yeah, no, a recession's not coming. At least there's no signs of that right now. So we can revisit that in a few months and see where things are shaking out in a few quarters. But believe me when I say there's nothing bearish or recessionary whatsoever about real GDP growth in excess of 3% on an annualized basis. So first and foremost, I think that's really key. Second of all, I did want to say thanks for, kind of the quick shout out here. I'm very opinionated 100%. And I really like to call out a lot of the BS and the false narratives that have really kind of plagued social media on crypto Twitter, finance Twitter, stock Twitter, whatever the case is, right? I'm an analyst, so I'm not just, focused on what's happening in crypto. I'm not just focused on what's happening in Bitcoin. I really approach markets from this kind of holistic perspective, right? That's why I called my business Cubic Analytics, looking at the stock market, the economy, and then Bitcoin as the kind of the 3 primary pillars. So as far as I'm concerned, things look really good. I think if you've been a Bitcoin or crypto investor, you've really had your patience tested over the course of the last 3 to 6 months. And it's been especially hard as we continue to see stocks rip higher. But look, this, in my opinion, this is why it's so important to have kind of a diversified portfolio, right? So I'm a big Bitcoin guy. Bitcoin's my largest position across any of my portfolios by far, but I still own a lot of stocks, right? And so for me personally, and for the people that I help, we've been doing really well in this market. So I keep saying this, but I'll say it once more. If the music's playing, you have to dance, right? Then you can ignore price action. You can ignore what's taking place objectively in markets, which is that, asset prices continue to trend. They continue to make higher highs and higher lows. So you could bury your head in the sand and ignore those things, or you could do your best to make money in this market environment. And I don't know about you guys, but one of the things I learned is that bull markets are typically when you make money. So if you're not long during a bull market, you're quite literally failing as an investor. And I don't plan on failing. So.
You got to dance if the music's playing, and man, this music has just been blaring, and I don't know what it is. There seems to be, is it a concerted fear narrative? Some people are just tuned into, not looking at the right data signals. Are people actually betting on really believing that things is going to go down, or are we just kind of, because you look at historical trends also into what's happening now, and are the data signals just kind of in such a weird position that it's hard to see why we're not going to get a recession, or expecting that this doomer based on I just feel like the data is so different now. How does one make sense of it? Or is it actually just noise that is different? And it's nothing suggesting that the bearness, that people are seeing it wrong.
No, look, every single market environment ever has risk, right? So if you focus on this data point or that data point or this niche data point or this thing that's happening to this consumer group or this might, whatever the case is, things can look bad, right? We can focus on auto loans like Danielle DiMartino Booth, shots fired. She's been wrong for as long as I've been an investor, which is basically 10 years, calling for a collapse of the US economy, collapse in asset prices. One of the key things she always talks about is what's happening in auto loans. I'll be damned if auto loans are going to keep me out of the stock market or keep me out of Bitcoin, right? I mean, let's be real here. So we can focus on some of these niche data points, or we could take the weight of the evidence. We can be objective analysts. We could approach everything that's happening both in the real estate market and consumer markets and inflation and monetary policy and fiscal policy, so on and so forth, and really come to a data-based outcome which points to asset prices going higher.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And I think one of the things a huge number of the people that are perma bears are just ignoring is, and it feels like it's on a clock, and that is the global liquidity, and especially within Bitcoin. When you this metric here is essentially the year over year change. So you're seeing the actual speed at which it's ticking up, and this is essentially the cumulative, the light blue. But this is front ran the massive upswings we've had in Bitcoin each cycle. And we've had this sort of uptick. We're getting a small correction right now, but we're seeing an increase in news stories. We're seeing an increase in data. We're seeing an increase in confirmations with, was it 6 trillion yuan now are going to be getting printed in China. We're now seeing a potential economic stimulus package that's larger than the last one in Japan. And we're coming into a position right now, especially even with the US, with how high our basically service to debt interest rates are, $3 billion a day or something like that. It's just ridiculous. There's nothing that can happen other than turning that money printer on. While I think that's terrible for the mass populace, those of us that are in markets understand that lights the fires. Do you think that this is a pretty high probability we're going to get that large swing that's going to pump these markets? Or how are you looking at that metric?
I think I'm actually less focused on like outright liquidity other than, just looking at the simple fact that we have an official regime change in monetary policy, right? So we could debate the magnitude of how much liquidity is coming into the market, how much the Fed is going to cut rates, whatever the case is. What we know for a fact is that the Fed is now in a rate cut cycle, right? And for me, that's what's really the most important. I don't really give a shit about what's happening with the Bank of Japan or the Bank of China, the People's Bank of China, right? The ECB, the Bank of Canada. I don't care, right? I literally don't care. I think the Fed moves markets first and foremost. And there's no need to overcomplicate it necessarily beyond that. I'm not sure what more alpha I can squeeze out of what those other central banks are doing. I think for me, one of the things that's most important is the fundamental backdrop right now for asset prices is unequivocally strong, right? So let's not even talk about crypto. If we're just focused on the S&P 500, forward 12-month earnings expectations are at all-time highs and continuing to trend higher. Right. So that's telling us unequivocally that corporations are doing a better job of producing profits and increased profits over time. And that certainly doesn't happen during a recession, right? At least they're not at all-time highs during a recession. And so again, when we look at that environment, and if you generally think that crypto, Bitcoin are basically just equities on steroids, and that's a fine perspective to have, I might disagree with it in some aspect, then if you're looking at a super strong backdrop for US equities, then why wouldn't crypto do well? Why wouldn't Bitcoin do well, right? So that can literally just be your thesis right then and there, right? As long as corporate earnings continue to trend higher, they likely will, then Bitcoin and crypto should do fairly well.
Well, another niche that I think, I was speaking about it a little bit before you came on, that people wonder, do we have anything that is the makings of something similar to the dot-com bubble in the early 2000s with what we're seeing now with the massive, it's such a massive, and I'm here for it, uptick in what we're seeing with NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA, of course, isn't just a chip maker. They're doing so many data services. There's so much that they're doing, but it's also at the forefront of, or very much a part of this AI narrative. Now that, of course, is in some ways blending in or bleeding into also some positive sentiment for different sectors of the crypto market. But are there any signals or any things that charts or data that you're looking at to help identify if we start getting signals that maybe this is a little overheated and could see a pretty big pullback? Or do you expect, because of the massive evolution that we've seen in technology and the need and we're already starting to see signs of the implementation of this type of technology and AI services. Do you expect that this is potentially only the beginning and this is not something like the dot-com bubble?
Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people try to draw some analogy between Cisco and NVIDIA, saying that NVIDIA is the Cisco of the dot-com bubble, right? For the current moment, and that simply couldn't be further from the truth, right? Because during that period, during Cisco's massive run, they were getting increasingly expensive on a fundamental basis. NVIDIA today is cheaper than it was 18 months ago. NVIDIA today is cheaper than it was 24 months ago, despite the fact that the stock is 10x, right? I mean, that's because fundamentals are there. That's because the biggest companies in the world, the Mag 7, I guess in this case it would be the Mag 6, are spending an insane amount of money in terms of capital expenditures on AI spend, on data center spend, on chips, so on and so forth. So these companies, if you believe that this is a bubble right now, then you're basically telling the best companies in the world that they're doing something wrong and that they don't know what they're doing. And I'm just not the kind of person who's going to pretend to be that smart to tell those companies that they're doing something wrong, right? You know, I'm 29 years old. I think I know what the hell I'm talking about. But at the same time, you kind of have to know your place in the world and just say, hey, look, if all these companies are doing this stuff, you know, maybe they're getting a little bit ahead of themselves. So we could debate that. But again, like, I'm not some corporate accounting guy who's going to be able to tell you that, oh my God, this is, you know, out of control, right? I'm also not a technologist, right? I'm a macro and market analyst, right? And so from that perspective, I have no idea what the impact of AI is going to be. And like I said, right, the simple fact that NVIDIA today is cheaper than it was 12 months ago. NVIDIA today is cheaper than it was 18, 24 months ago. That does not happen in a bubble, because a bubble inherently means that price is detached from fundamentals. One of my, you know, when I was in college, studying at UCSB, I had a professor that said, price is what you pay, value is what you get, right? So naturally, there can be a discrepancy between price and value. And so right now in this market environment, what we're seeing is that the price of NVIDIA is going up, but the value of it is growing even faster, right? So if that's happening, fundamentally, that's telling us we are not in a bubble, right? So maybe we will be in 6 months, maybe we will be in 12 months, 18, 24, I have no idea. Again, I spend as little time as possible trying to understand that. All I see is that asset prices are trending higher.
What a great characterization there. I think it's very important. I talk about it a lot here on BitLab. I think people get so focused on price, they forget that it's just a data point in concert with a lot of other data points. And so, like, for instance, Bitcoin right now, I would argue Bitcoin is probably in the best risk-adjusted position it's ever been. And the price is where it's at because of the fundamentals, the access points, the regulatory clarity, the financial products with the biggest financial institutions in the world. The price relatively is probably the lowest it's ever been relative to the fundamental underpinnings. That's why I think of where we're at right now as a base. Now, one of the questions I think a lot of people have right now is I don't want to say lack of performance, but the difference, the disparity between the performance of the Bitcoin spot ETFs and then the Ethereum came out. I think people initially were like, it's just going to, but the market was in a slightly different position then. So do you think that this is kind of be the name of the game for the next, year and a half or more? Do you think that there's been, I don't want to say a suppression, but a lack of interest in the Ethereum spot ETF because that basically launched after we were already in a consolidation phase with the crypto market? What are investors to consider when they're looking at the performance of the Ethereum spot ETF at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely is a massive discrepancy between the success of the Bitcoin ETFs and the spot Ethereum ETFs. I don't think that the Ethereum ETFs have been a failure, but perhaps on a relative basis versus the success of the Bitcoin ETFs, it has been, right? So I think that's pretty key. And then look, I can come on here, say what I have to say. Someone else can come on here and completely disagree with me. But the one thing that's an objective truth is price, right? So what's going on with ETH BTC? Why does that continue to be in a massive downtrend, continuing to make new multi-year lows? That right there is telling the story much more, in my opinion, than what's happening from the ETF standpoint. And so for me, that's the signal, right? Look at Solana relative to ETH. Look at BTC relative to ETH. This is where the alpha is, right? This is what's actually taking place. I can come on here and try to sound really smart, but price is a single data point that we can objectively agree on 100%.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And, I actually thought it was quite interesting because I think this is going to be a trend over the next couple years. But it's interesting which different projects within the broader crypto asset ecosystem. And I hate the term cryptocurrency. I think it's probably the worst nomenclature that was dubbed on this, because these are digital assets that perform a variety of very different types of utility mechanisms and access within the space. Now, when we're looking at, I saw this post this morning, and this was Larry Fink, BlackRock CEO. Larry Fink says Chainlink will eclipse Bitcoin. That Bitcoin is a flight to quality since Chainlink CCIP. They're also partnered with Visa, DTCC, Swift. So there's going to be like a narrative, I think, that emerges over the next couple of years of some select projects within the ecosystem. And I think it's in some ways a good thing. But a lot of the stuff that's in the crypto ecosystem, I do, even though I have a different exposure to different coins, those are smaller time frame positions. I do think a lot of this ecosystem is going to be sort of trimmed down by just sort of these sort of kingmakers that Larry Fink, Fidelity, and other major financial institutions sort of package in to, for instance, like a crypto index fund, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink, Solana, AVAX, whatever they are. I think that's going to cut out a lot of noise. Do you have any thoughts on just sort of the next narrative on the larger financial institution, the products that are going to be made, and what people should potentially be watching out for?
I think the whole tokenization stuff is going to continue to pick up a lot of momentum. So, Larry Fink coming on talking about this shouldn't really be much of a surprise with respect to Chainlink. I think he's been pretty outspoken about tokenizing real world assets in the past, right? So, I hope I'm not misspeaking here, but I'm 99% sure that BlackRock is somehow associated with Ondo, right? So again, that's kind of a very similar theme overall with this whole real world asset tokenization type stuff. So, who knows? I mean, they might try to come out with some of those ETFs as well, right? We'll see.
Yeah. And then I know you're in a little bit of a playful, not squabble, but a playful little deal with a guy on Twitter. You're not allowed, You're not posting a Bitcoin chart, but hey, this is a live stream. You could bust out a Bitcoin chart on here. Show us what you're looking at, and maybe a chart or two outside of that you may think that you just had your eyes on.
Yeah, let's take a look. I'm sharing my screen with you, Kelly. I know we didn't have a chance to set that up in the past. So is everything good on your side?
Yeah, it's all good.
Sweet. Okay, so everyone and their mother is talking about this bull flag breakout, this continuation pattern breakout, right? Whatever we want to call this. I've been getting into debates with people about whether this is actually a bull flag or not. Has it been going on for too long? I don't know. I don't care at this point. All I know is we're getting this breakout, right? And so what I'm doing here, this is actually a regression channel. This is not some trend line that I'm drawing manually. And so what I've done here is I've drawn it from the all-time high daily close to the low daily close here on September 6th. And so I've taken that regression. You can see the endpoint right here lining up perfectly on September 6th, 2024. And it's worked really well, right? With hindsight, a little bit being 2020 here, but upper bound resistance, 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 resistance. And we're getting this move, right? So for me, I'm very optimistic about that. There's one thing as well that I really want to focus on here, which is the indicator that I have in the lower bound of this chart, because we're literally getting this signal as of 2 days ago, or maybe even yesterday, actually. And so as you can see, this has actually only happened two other times. But in particular, what we're looking at is the 120-day Williams percent R. Caleb, why are you using 120 days? It seems so arbitrary. Well, it's basically a third of a year, right? So it's giving us a pretty strong indication for a medium-term trend here. And so in particular, what I'm focused on is each time the 120-day Williams percent R oscillator goes from the lower bound, right, basically being oversold, to a momentum thrust to the overbought side, right, piercing above this upper bound. So we can see the same thing happen. We went from oversold to overbought. And again, we went from oversold, and you can see we've had several opportunities to become overbought, right? In July a few times, here in August, once again here in September, and we didn't actually get that complete momentum thrust until now, right? And so for me, this chart is really important because it's telling us, look, guys, there's nothing bearish whatsoever about an excessive amount of demand. When we're seeing a bunch of buyers come in and produce an upside momentum thrust, a bunch of bullish behavior, a bunch of demand coming in. What's bearish about that? When we're seeing all these buyers step in with force, unequivocally, quantitatively, right? We can literally prove it based on this chart. There's nothing bearish about that. So, I can say that, and that might sound good, but how has the data actually proven itself, right? How good of an indicator has this actually been? Well, I'd say pretty damn well, right? This was 21,000. A few months later, we were at 30K. Then it happened again here, right around 34,000. A few months later, we were making new all-time highs at 74,000, right? So in each instance, we've seen upwards of 50% to 100% gains in the aftermath of this signal flashing. And now for the first time, it's flashing when price is basically 65,000, 67,000, right? So I don't know if we're going to get a 50% gain or a 100% gain from here. I don't know. I'm not going to spend any time trying to think about that or quantify it. All I know for a fact is that these indicators in the past within a bull market environment have certainly not been bearish. So for me, this is really, really important.
I mean, and I love the simplicity of the chart as well. To be honest, I couldn't be more bullish at the moment. And because I'm so bullish, I've learned in the 3 cycles I've been in, and I was doing some trading before that in just traditional markets, but I've learned no matter how bullish you are, you have to have reset targets, retrace targets, so I am prepared if something were to happen. In fact, I think ultimately that would only result in a higher end price of this market cycle top. It would just be frustrating in the engagement side and the sort of the vibe on crypto Twitter, for instance. But it just seems to me like things are coiling so strong. Now, before we go, I don't want to take up all your time while you're out there dancing through the world over in Bucharest. But there's been a lot of speculation, or battle of narratives and this nonsense tribalism that we see in the crypto market. And I think it's kind of fueled by, if I own it, it must be the best. And the truth is most people own a lot of dog shit in their portfolio, and they argue that it's the best. It's not good just because you own it. You got to look at fundamentals. But in this specific case, there's been a little bit of a division or a little bit of change here with the Solana narrative and, Sui sort of kind of taking a little bit of the light lately because of that. So what do you make? What's your sort of just general impression of Solana and what's happening there? And then, this whole new kid on the street, Sui narrative that's kind of taken the crypto markets by storm in the last few months.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Bitcoin, Solana is my only other position that I have from a long-term perspective. So I have a bit of a bias here for sure. Congrats to all the people who have been long Sui. I don't have this kind of like, what's the word that I'm looking for here? This like tribal like combativeness against other tokens, right? If I'm going to be a trader, if I'm going to be an investor, and I need to be agnostic emotionally and really do my best to just analyze price action, analyze what's happening in macro, and then make a decision in order to benefit me the most, right? So I think that's really important. So if people have been long Sui, congrats. If people have been long Solana, congrats. That's really been a great trade as well, right? So no shame there if you haven't been in Sui and if you've just been in Solana, right? So I think that's really important too. Maybe I can share my screen here on this again, Kelly, because I have a really nice Sol ETH chart that we should definitely go over. And I'll get rid of that Williams % R oscillator. Actually, let's do this on daily candles. I think that'll be nice. Does this look like anything to you, man?
Giant cup and handle, baby.
Yeah, it looks like it to me too, right? I mean, what the hell? So yeah, this is Solana relative to Ethereum. When this breakout happened here in August, this was really kind of the eye opener for me, saying I need to significantly reduce my Ethereum exposure, if not get rid of it entirely. And that's actually exactly what I went ahead and did, and rotated all of that capital into Solana, right? So I had an Ethereum bag, which was certainly much smaller than my Bitcoin position. But I saw no point in holding it beyond where it was at that time, with the opportunity cost looking me dead in the face here with Solana, right? So again, as investors, we have a bunch of choices to make, right? Are we in the markets? Are we out of the markets? And if we are in the markets, what are we in, right? And if we are in this and not in that, what's the opportunity cost for being in this and not owning that, right? And this chart right here speaks for itself. There's been a significant opportunity cost for holding Ethereum instead of owning Solana. And maybe that changes, but until we have evidence of that changing, I'm not going to fight this trend, right? As investors, we have a choice. Do we want to align with trends or do we want to fight them? And history shows us, right? Like let's pick an extreme here. History shows us that we really don't want to fight trends, right? This is the S&P 500 going back to 1967. Is this a trend you wanted to have been fighting? Shit, probably not, right? So again, we can go back to Sol ETH here. Is this a trend that we want to fight? Is this a breakout that we want to fight? For me, the answer is no. For you, maybe the answer is yes, you do want to fight this trend. I can't tell you what to do with your portfolio. I can tell you what I'm doing with mine. And it's not owning Ethereum and it is owning Solana. And so how does this shake in with SUI? I mean, I don't really know. Like, can we even do Sol SUI on here? Do we have a, let's try this. We're going to do this in real time. Okay. We're going to do Coinbase, Sol USD, Coinbase, SUI USD. So look, I mean, this is retracing a significant amount of the move, but even if you've been in Solana relative to SUI over the course of the past year and a half, you've crushed it, right? You've done an extremely, you've done extremely well. And so, maybe if I was a Solana investor, and I am, I would be concerned about the opportunity cost of not owning SUI if we fall below this level. Why this level? Because it would represent a lower low, right? The thing that I take a lot of comfort in here, and this is actually the first time I'm pulling this chart up, is the fact that we produced a higher high in Solana relative to SUI, right? And throughout all of this period, we were still producing all these higher highs. And as of yet, we have not produced a lower low, right? So if we fall below this blue zone, this blue level, that would give me some pause here. That would give me some hesitancy about maybe the market is shifting in favor of SUI versus Solana. Until then, I'm going to continue holding Solana.
And I think you brought up such an excellent point there that I think really does go over a lot of, especially newer investor and traders' heads. And that is the denominator of what you're looking at. Because so many people only look at the slash USD or slash USDT pairing. And the reason why that's important and why I'm so happy you brought that up, Caleb, is because, for instance, with Solana, this is the Solana to Bitcoin chart. Massive bull flag here. I mean, we could even do it two ways. We'll do a conservative way and the full bull flag way. Let's say it's symmetrical triangle. This is suggesting if this were to break out that, let's say you're holding $1,000 worth of Solana. And this breaks out bullish, okay, come on, measuring tool. If this breaks out, you're going to make 100% gain in the value of what you would have not been able to capture if you were just holding Bitcoin. Similarly, if this was a bull flag, then this measurement out here shows that this would, holding that $1,000 worth of Solana would gain you 310% on this breakout if it went to the target. So it is very important to look at the denominators. And let's be honest, why are we all in this market? Maybe not everybody's so fundamentally based like many of us hope to be, but we're in this because we do think that Bitcoin specifically, and then there's some tangential different altcoins and stuff as well, outside the system, something different from the bank, something outside the government fiat systems. So if that's the case, then why not figure out ways that we can denominate against Bitcoin, or in this case, as you did with Ethereum, stop looking at what's the valuation in dollars. How can I make moves to gain as much, not only against the dollar, but also these other incredible assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum? Because my long-term goal is to make sure everything in my life is denominated in Bitcoin. My portfolio, even my altcoin portfolio, I'm looking at it and how much Bitcoin I can basically transact from this altcoin to essentially garner myself more Bitcoin down the line. That's my entire goal in all this.
Love it, man. I mean, look, maybe I could share my screen on this as well, right? I mean, I kind of hinted at it, right? And it's like we have several choices as investors. Are we long? Are we in the market or are we out of the market? And if we are in the market, what are we in, right? Because we have an abundance of opportunities. We have thousands of different investment opportunities at our fingertips, right? So picking the fastest horse in the race is really important. But I want to highlight something here, right? This is Bitcoin dominance. This is the chart going back since September of 2022. I don't know, this is 2+ years of being in an uptrend in Bitcoin dominance. So it's been really difficult for anything over a sustainable and material time frame to outperform Bitcoin, right? No other crypto over the course of the past 2 years on the aggregate has been able to continuously outperform Bitcoin, right? So if we do, BTC relative to total 3 or BTC relative to total 2, it's going to look like this, right? A massive uptrend. And so part of me then is going to say, well, what have been the things that have really continued to outperform Bitcoin, right? And the biggest one, in my opinion, is Solana. right? And with the severe underperformance of something like Ethereum, so as we're looking at these different smart contract platforms, so on and so forth, Ethereum and Solana, direct competitors, right? And there's definitely a future outcome where they can be symbiotic and continue to compete and thrive alongside of each other. But within that niche of crypto, looking at smart contract platforms, which one has been the massive winner here? And it's unequivocally been Solana relative to Ethereum. And again, that can change, right? Maybe Ethereum takes that lead back, right? But we're not seeing evidence of that right now. And so for me personally, that's the opportunity cost that we have in front of us. It's really been Bitcoin versus everything else. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, everything else has not outperformed. It's been Bitcoin that's been outperforming, right? And so for me, I've been very happy with that because I've been really selective and really aggressive in some kind of select periods. But I've been outspoken about this for as long as you've known me, Kelly. It's Bitcoin versus everything else. I view Bitcoin as the only worthy investment within the crypto universe. And then I take medium-term and short-term bets, right? And so for me, the medium-term bet has been Solana. And then I have some short-term bets kind of sprinkled in right now. But, right, it's really been Bitcoin versus everything else. And even as I look at some of those short-term bets that I've been in maybe for the past few weeks, this chart is telling me Caleb, you should have just been in Bitcoin, right? And, I could look at myself and kind of critique that, but that's just a fact, right? So, you could be upset by that truth, or you could look at it and be objective about it and just accept it. And I think that's much more important as an investor, right? So it's really been Bitcoin versus everything else. Otherwise, Bitcoin dominance would not be in a 2-year uptrend.
I mean, that's such good points there. And I think Hank Miller here said alts are fast, but the burnout. And I think that's ties in essentially what you're pointing out there. Bitcoin is the investment. Can you make money in a lot of alts? Absolutely. I mean, I have quite a bit of investment in alts, but I think like most players in the crypto ecosystem, alts, yes, they have some fundamentals. Yes, they can do some stuff, but there's a lot of promises that haven't been realized yet. And in some ways, it is a vehicle to trade the volatility. It's a profit, basically profit speculation on the volatility within, which is why you're seeing something that will outpace Bitcoin for a period of time. But then profits are rotated out of that into another altcoin or back into Bitcoin, which is why you have to, again, everybody, if you're going to be investing, I love Avalanche. I love Near. I like Sui. I like, all these, BitTensor Tau. But I also have a timeline that I'm looking at for what my goal is with it, the time horizon I'm going to be in, what's my risk management and my exit strategy, both up and down, because it's not something I'm saying, hey, I'm going to get 20 altcoins and I'm going to look at it in 10 years. No, I would say even with the best, 17 of those 20s probably won't be around in 10 years. So we got to look to Bitcoin and so on and so forth. Now, you mentioned something also. As long as you've known me, we've known each other for what is it, 4 years now or something like that?
No, it's I think it's been like 2.5 years.
Well, it's longer than that because it's since I was at over at Caleb Franzen. Since I was over at the Crypto Jeb team, when you had a very close haircut,
shorter hair, yeah.
But it's been a minute. But I think you had about 1,000 followers when we first started talking about it. And before I get to this question, everybody here, make sure you're following Caleb right here at Caleb Franzen. He's got it's one of my favorite newsletters that is available in the space because it talks about the broader signals in the markets and economy, money, as well as Bitcoin and crypto. So make sure you're giving him a follow. Now, you've been in these markets, you used to work at a bank, working for the system, in the financial markets. That you've now doing this all on your own, and you give such great thoughts and opinions. But just, I'd like to wrap out with you. What are 2 or 3 things that like you've had to either learn the hard way or basically break this habit of things that have impacted you the most in the last 5 years, for instance, in this market that have benefited you the most?
I think optimists win in the long run. So I think first and foremost, being captive to like doomer narratives. I used to be a staunch follower of someone like Peter Schiff or Jim Rickards or that kind of whole crew, the severe gold bugs, and really kind of operating with that negative mindset that everything is going to crash, I think is really terrible. Thankfully, I was able to move on from that. So I would really just express to anyone watching this, be really careful when you hear people really trying to instill fear and masquerading that fear as trying to look out for you, because over the long run, that's never a good solution. Just look at the market's historical performance, right? So I think that's first and foremost, optimists win. Second of all, I think, price is what pays, right? So, I've said it several times on this call with you, Kelly, but I can come on here, I could be on with someone else, we could be debating, we can go back and forth, have two completely different narratives, perspectives, and opinions, but only one thing is true, and that's price in markets, right? And unfortunately, narratives don't pay us, only prices do, right? And I don't know about everyone else here, but the whole reason why we're here is arbitrage, right? We're trying to buy something low and sell it high, or we're trying to buy something high and sell it higher, right? So one way or the other, we're trying to manufacture some arbitrage here. And so by definition, arbitrage is produced by price. So focusing on and analyzing price is really important. I think, technical analysis gets a bad rap from a lot of people, mostly just because it's executed poorly. And it's really kind of perceived as like magician's trade within the econ or finance realm. But, if you're doing things the right way, if you're following people who are doing things the right way, following price is the best thing that you can absolutely do, right? Because again, the market is a forward-looking pricing mechanism. Is it perfect? No, it's an indicator just like everything else, but it's the best one that we have, right? I had a professor once and I went to him and I said, what's the leading indicator for the stock market? How come I can't find a leading indicator for the stock market? And he said, because the stock market is the leading indicator, right? The stock market is the leading indicator. And so I think a lot of people, it's so dumb shit obvious that it's like right in front of your nose, you can't see it. So I think that's really important. So I don't have a third one for you, Kelly. We'll have to do this again. I'll try to come up with a third one. But for me, those are the two that I'd really kind of encourage people to focus on.
It's always such a wonderful conversation every time I'm able to chat with you. You've come on here a number of times, come on Crypto Answered a number of times in the past. Always appreciate it. Again, everybody, I just want to shout out. Make sure you're retweeting this post. You will be entered to win. Drawing on Friday. Tagged Caleb himself in there as well. And again, of course, make sure you're following our boy right here at Caleb Franzen. That's CALEBFRANZEN. There's only one Caleb Franzen. He and I both probably have 100 different fake profiles out there, and it just drives us crazy. But that's all I got for today. Caleb, thanks for coming on, and we'll look forward to having you back on again soon.
Good to see you, bro. Take care.
You as well, my friend. Now, everybody, make sure you're hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, ding the bell. Make sure that you stay on the right side of what's happening in these markets. Everybody, my name's Kelly Kellam with BitLab Academy. Let me say that again because I'm actually recording this for a deal. Do it right here. My name's Kelly Kellam with BitLab Academy. Do it again. My name's Kelly Kellam with BitLab Academy, contributing content creator for the street. Breaking things down with Caleb Franzen. What's going on in these markets? What's going on in the stock market? Are we in for a recession? Is it not going to happen? Where's Bitcoin going next? All the things that you need to do to make sure that you can stay on the right side of these trends. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. We will be back with another stream tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. That's all I got. Let's head over to Blockchain Basement. Show some love. Adios, muchachos. Adios, muchachos. Thank you for coming. Thank you for always tuning in. Shout out to Falco for the 5 gifted memberships. Big love to you. I appreciate it. I love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful day. That's all I got. Adios.